All right, welcome back to Getting Sober, again. My name is Jay, and today we're going to ask a big question, which is, can I still be a creative individual and be sober at the same time? But first, if you haven't yet, don't forget to show your support for everybody here in this sobriety community by giving this video a thumbs up. And if you care about your own sobriety journey as much as we do, then make sure that you're subscribed to this channel. All right, let's get started. So I'm going to start this episode on a somewhat somber note because I really want this message to hit home for those of you out there that are creative individuals like myself. I'm going to read off a list of names, and I'm sure that you've heard of all these names, and I'm sure that you know why these people are no longer here with us, because all these people that I'm mentioning, unfortunately, have lost their lives due to alcohol or to drug addiction. So bear with me. I'm going to read this from my phone. Prince, Michael Jackson, Mac Miller, Tom Petty, Bradley Nowell, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Lane Staley, Scott Weiland, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Whitney Houston, Elvis, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Jackson Pollock, Amy Winehouse, John Bonham, Luke Bell, Jim Morrison, Hank Williams, Keith Moon. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I know if you're a creative person like me, maybe you drank because you wanted to shut off the incessant mind chatter that's always happening when you are a creative individual. One of the things about being a creative individual is that ideas are always coming, but maybe we feel guilty because we can't possibly keep up with the influx of all these great ideas that are coming to our minds, good, bad, or otherwise. And one of the things that we struggle with, and especially in our early years of being a creative person or a creative individuals, is that we don't exactly know how to fit into society. We're not really like other people. We don't have a regular 9 to 5, or maybe you do have a 9 to 5 while you're trying to fund and fuel your talent and your art, trying to bring that to life. I know that I did that for many years, and it only wasn't until recently, I'm gonna be 42 in just a couple of weeks, so it wasn't until recently that I was able to live off of my art just barely. I know that if you're out there and you identify with being a creative individual, that maybe you feel like you're a black sheep in the family. Maybe you feel like you don't fit in. You don't have the same interest as your brothers and your sisters, or maybe as your parents. Maybe you don't want to follow in the family footsteps. Maybe you didn't do what your parents hoped that you would do with your career or with your life, or maybe you're still trying to find your footing and find what your place is in the world. And all of those things can lead you to maybe want to drink or use different substances. And I know that I've had my share of everything under the sun. And I know that while I was self-sabotaging, I know that while I was daily binge drinking, I felt like I could only create when I was drinking. And I know that that mentality was going to continue to keep me trapped. I knew that I wanted to create. I know that I wanted to be more of a spiritual connection between maybe my paintbrush and the canvas. But I'll tell you, if you identify with any of this, if you've ever spent any time sitting in front of a blank canvas with maybe just some paint on your palette, that it's one of the most overwhelming feelings and maybe stressful feelings that you could possibly have, and maybe to kind of calm your nerves and help you to relax a little bit more, and to maybe to help you get into the right mindset and the headspace to maybe be able to create in the first place. Maybe you felt like you needed a drink. And then after that, if the ideas were coming or if they weren't coming, or if you're feeling inspired or weren't feeling inspired, maybe you'd want to have another drink and then another drink. And I know because I did that for many years. I actually went to Columbus College of Art and Design, and I was studying graphic design there along with filmmaking, photography, and fine art. And during my college art career and then afterwards, I did something like 24 gallery shows in 24 months. It was a lot. And I thought that that's what my calling was. And I thought that that's what my purpose was. And one of the things about becoming an adult from our adolescent and our youthful years is we forget that some of the best times that we had was when we were with our parents, or maybe aunts and uncles, or maybe our grandparents, and they would sit you down with a stack of paper and a box of crayons or maybe a box of markers, and that's what you'd be doing for the whole afternoon, just coloring, drawing, cartoon characters, comic book characters, whatever it was. That's all you wanted to do. And you didn't need to be intoxicated to create. You got into the zone. You shut out the world around you. You weren't buried under the stress of having to keep a roof over your head and paying your bills and your job performance at work, and if you're going to keep your job, or if they're going to keep you after the holidays, or your relationship that you're in, or maybe if you're a parent or if you're not a parent yet and that's stressful for you and you're getting stressed from your family members, you're still trying to figure out, who am I where do I belong in this world? And am I ever going to really feel normal? I get it. I've been there. And after leaving home and trying to find my place in the world, which wasn't very far away, I was born up in the Cleveland area and I went to college in Columbus, Ohio, so only a 2.5 hour drive, but I was experimenting with how I dressed. I was experimenting with how I acted. I was experimenting with alcohol, experimenting with drugs. I was experimenting with what kind of people I wanted to surround myself with, what kind of lifestyle I wanted to live, and also too, what lifestyle that I can afford for me to just feel comfortable in my own skin and knowing that I was different than everybody else, or at least believing that I was different than everybody else because I conducted myself in a different manner. I had different ideas than other people. Being a creative person, it has its own unique thoughts. It has its own unique way of interpreting and seeing the world around you. And that can make you want to drink. That can make you want to just numb the pain. It can make you want to kind of equalize the difference between you and all of the society that's happening around you, with all your friends that maybe watch sports, or maybe all your friends that are political, or maybe all your friends that are interested in just watching evening television, going to bed and just doing it all over again the next day. I get it. Like, I never really felt like I fit in any of those places. And I'm happy that I have this particular outlet now, because not only do I get to use my creativity, but I also get to use my creativity for something that I feel like my purpose is, which is to help people. And over the years, of course, as we get older, we see people maybe move away, we maybe see people pass away. And I know that I've lost friends to self-harm. I'll say that for the algorithm, but they're no longer here with us because of that self-harm. And I've lost friends to addiction. I've watched friends lose their creativity. I watched friends who I thought the world of watch their light get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, and watch them get more and more depressed, and watch them isolate more and more from the world and become more and more detached from the world. And I was also on that same path. At some point, maybe you relate to this, the only thing that I felt like made me feel better was getting drunk. As soon as I woke up that day, of course, I would still try to exercise and eat healthy and hydrate and take all my vitamins and things like that. But I knew that at the end of the night, whether or not I was going out or if I was staying home, that I was gonna drink. And then drinking just started to replace my ambitions, because all I wanted to do was no longer to create. It was just to drink. It was just to feel something. And alcohol, I gave the power over to alcohol. Alcohol was the only thing that made me feel better. It was the only thing that made me feel any type of feelings, because I spent most of my days feeling anxious. I spent most of my days feeling depressed. And when you find yourself in that kind of deficit, when you find yourself in that kind of rut, the last thing that you're gonna do is have any kind of extracurricular thoughts like, I don't know, painting something or taking photos or writing a new song or writing a new poem. And the same thing applies when you give alcohol all the power over your creativity. You think, well, the only way that I can be more spiritual or be more in tune or be more creative is if I have this drink, or if I take a puff, or if I do whatever it is that's going to help to numb me and to get me into that zone. You've given the power over to it. We can't go on vacation without a drink. We can't go to a wedding without having a drink. We can't go out to dinner without having a drink. We let alcohol infiltrate every aspect of our life. Seeing our friends means drinking. Seeing our family for the holidays means drinking. Just going to a movie theater. If you're anything like me, I wouldn't go to a movie theater unless they had a bar at it. Alcohol became my passion. Alcohol became the only thing that I wanted to do. When I used to DJ, which is what all this stuff is behind me, this is all my DJ equipment. And I'll tell you that one of the most unhealthy places on all of planet Earth is behind the DJ booth. All kinds of stuff used to go on back there. I'll let you use your own imagination for that one. But that was one of the reasons why I stopped DJing, because I felt like I wasn't really enabling people to be their best. I felt like I was contributing to them making worse decisions. And back in my early 20s, when I was painting and when I was doing all these gallery shows and when I was throwing parties and I was DJing back then, I just wanted to be in the party, because the party was the place it was socially acceptable to be halfway out of my mind on alcohol or on substances, because that's what everybody else was doing. Everybody else was having a hard time finding where they fit in and how they were supposed to be and how they were supposed to behave. But I know just as well as you do that alcohol is a depressant. I know just as well as you do that, scientifically speaking, alcohol creates more anxiety. I know just as well as you do that we don't need the end cap at the end of the night, because alcohol in fact ruins our sleep. It ruins our ability to hit REM sleep, which is memory consolidation, which helps you to have a better day tomorrow. We always talk about creating better habits and just improving 1% better today than you were yesterday. One of the key foundations to having the success that you want in anything, especially sobriety, is making more better decisions today and less worse decisions tomorrow. And remembering that when we know better, it's our job to do better. I'm going to tell you something that I believe, and I know that it's true because I've experienced it, but our truths may be different, and what you believe may be different, and what we think, what we know, what we believe, and whatever the truth is are all different depending on a person's personal perspective. I understand all that. But I believe that our best ideas come to us when we limit the distraction. When we're not continuously surrounding ourselves with the people, the places, the things, the substances that are keeping us from being the best versions of ourselves. Personally, the only time that I listen to music is when I'm working out, or maybe if I'm going on a car ride. But even if I'm listening to music, it's never top 40 mainstream popular music, and it's almost always never music that has lyrics in it. And I do that because music has a way of influencing our feelings. I know that just like you, every time that I had a breakup, I would listen to some sad music, and that sad music would continue to fuel me feeling sad and feeling depressed, because I know there's part of it is also honoring those feelings and maybe honoring that relationship even though it's ended, and maybe thinking about what I did wrong or what I could have done better, or why did they do this or why did I do that, and how come we can't just start over again. And we have a way of focusing on the wrong things at the wrong time, which is again where we talk about the importance of limiting those distractions and limiting that self-chatter in our minds. But first and foremost, we have to make our mind a healthy environment. One of the things that I believe is limiting our alcohol and substance abuse, and also to just ultimately getting rid of it and eliminating it from our lives, allows us, in that one major healthy decision, allows us to follow suit with more healthy decisions. Before we can have the extracurricular thoughts of creating, we have to get back to the basics. We have to cut the alcohol and the drugs out of our life. We have to maybe redefine what our diet is going to be, what kind of healthy foods we're going to put into our body, maybe considering supplements, maybe considering therapy, all the things that we talk about on this channel all the time. When we make this a healthy environment, we have more space and more room to explore those thoughts and those ideas that we're being tasked with to bring to life, to create. And I know that ever since I got sober, I've had more time to think, which I know can be kind of terrifying. But when we start to embrace ourselves, when we start to embrace those ideas and know that maybe I can't produce everything right now, but it's not my job to produce everything right now. It's not my job to be creative and make all these paintings right now and take all these photos right now. But maybe what'll help you is something that helped me, which is to make a list, make to-do list. If nothing else, if you can't do it right now, if you can't create right now, if you can't write the whole song right now or write the whole poem right now, maybe you can just write a couple of lines right now, store it in your phone, revisit it later. All the lessons that we learn are from the mistakes that we encounter, and they're only mistakes if we don't learn from them. We're gonna find new ways to be productive. We're gonna find new ways to be creative. We're gonna find new ways to be better at our business, to be better at our jobs, to maybe start new healthy habits. But that starts when we eliminate those distractions. It starts when we stop numbing ourselves from the pain and the traumas that we had in our past and sit with those feelings and start to break down those feelings. Maybe talk to a therapist and start to unravel the things that happen to you that are no longer in your control that cause depression, and helping you to be more present and stop focusing on the future, which causes you anxiety. Inside every single one of us is still that little kid that loves sitting at the dining room table and drawing with crayons and markers for hours at a time. One of the greatest joys in life is to be able to play, and one of the greatest joys in life is to be able to create. And one of the greatest joys in life is to find that balance inside of you and never forget that that inner child is still there and still wants to come out and play and still wants to come out and create. And whether or not you're an amateur or whether or not you're a creative professional, I know that just as well as you do, that you're not your best self when you're drinking. You're not your best self when you're self-sabotaging and limiting your strength. And you're not blocking out those ideas that are coming to you on a daily basis, but you're grabbing them and you're embracing them and keeping them close to you, because you know that even though you can't do it today, it's fuel for tomorrow, which again falls into the category of making more better decisions today to have an even better day tomorrow. And before we end this video, we talked about in the beginning of the video all the names of the people that are no longer with us. Prince, Michael Jackson, Tom Petty, you name it. And I'm willing to bet that each and every one of us wishes that they were all still here and wishes that they were able to fight their demons and find that better balance in their lives so that they can continue to bless us with the gifts that they have, the talents that they have, and the ideas that they have. Think about all the music that we'll never hear because it's never been created. And think about all the struggles that all those musicians and that those artists and those actors had at their disposal that maybe they never let see the light of day because they were struggling at the end of a bottle. And that song or that poem or that painting never really hashed out the way it was supposed to be because they were self-sabotaging, because they were limiting themselves, because they couldn't see clearly, because they couldn't focus, because they couldn't be the vessel that they needed to be to let this beautiful idea come to light. So if you're a creative member of the community, I want you to comment down below and tell us what your medium is. Are you a painter? Are you a photographer? Are you a sculptor? Are you a musician, poet, writer? What is it? We always love to hear from every single one of you, so don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. And with that, I want to wish you good luck on your self-improvement journey, and I will see you in the next video.
If you want to see another one of our videos, click here.